different. We talked about this back in late September, early October. It's one of those quirky things. Evangelicals will go towards Trump because they worry about their pocketbook just as much as they are worried about their God.
So if you look at all these things that Trump is doing that, it's counterintuitive. You would imagine a Republican running in a primary offending the sensibilities of conservative Republicans and Cruz supporters. He wouldn't do well, but he's doing well. And here's the reason why. The reason why is kind of simple. If everything in this country goes pretty well for the next few months, then I think Ted Cruz will likely be the nominee. If Barack Obama keeps doing what he's done for the past 7 years, does what he wants to do, passes executive orders that are insane, trading criminals in this country for hostages in Iran, which he's done, giving Taliban prisoners for Bergdahl, that traitor. If Barack Obama keeps doing these things, then Donald Trump wins the nomination, because Donald Trump is feeding off of the anger of everyone, not just Republicans. Because in a general election, I think Donald Trump will crush whoever runs on the Democratic side. By the way, it's not so clear it's going to be Hillary. We'll get to that in a minute. But Donald Trump will crush them because your average American, whether he be a Republican, Democrat, or Independent, is pissed the hell off.
Russ Gallo is the voice of an angry America here on Beyond Any Lines.
I'm angry, and that's the only reason why I would support a pro-abortion, pro-gay marriage, sometimes conservative guy like Donald Trump, because he's angry, I'm angry, let's burn this MFer down. You know what I mean?
Well, speaking of good things that Donald Trump is doing, let's talk about his response to Ted Cruz when it came to, and this has been a hashtag that's been going on our show and everywhere else for the past couple of days, New York values. Donald Trump's answer was perfect. I understood what Ted Cruz was going at. I wrote a whole article on
your article because it was excellent take on this.
On www.behindanylinesradio.us. Check out the article. It's on you, New York, New York. And I'm going to go New York bashing in a second. But I just want to say that, yes, Ted Cruz is right. New York values are a thing.
And by the way, this is coming from guys who are in the belly of the beast, the People's Republican.
I am
Brooklyn,
born and raised in southern Brooklyn.
And we fought our friends. I mean, we have lots of political friends in New York, from New York, and other parts of the country. We had email threads going back and forth, and so many people disagreed with my friend Gene on this. I wholeheartedly agree with Gene. I think he encapsulated the argument perfectly on the website, so please view the article.
And to summarize the argument is this. When you look to New York values, you're not talking about the individual person. Listen, we have 100,000 conservatives and Republicans in the People's Republic of New York City, just in Brooklyn alone. Yet we're outnumbered 8-1. Nobody's denigrating that 100,000 people who have conservative values. But look at the culture of New York. Albany has a culture of corruption. Albany has a revolving door between the Capitol building and the local prison system. They go around and round and round. How many mayors resigned in disgrace over a scandal? How many legislators resigned in disgrace or had to be kicked out because they got convicted because they wouldn't resign in disgrace? New York City, we banned soda. We tried to ban soda, I should say. We overburden. We banned soda, yet there is a free masturbation booth on 28th and 5th. You know, that's New York values.
Soda, for God's sake. I mean, we got gay marriage, abortion on demand, drug needle exchanges. These are New York values.
Breitbart reports that if you misidentify a gender that this person identifies with, a business can be fined up to $250,000. And that didn't even go through the city council. That was an executive order from an agency.
We got a part-time city council earning $130,000 a year, trying to give themselves, 25% pay raise.
We got a governor that said conservatives should leave the state.
They have no place in New York. No place in New York. The previous two governors were disgraceful, corrupt dudes.
Well, one's client number 9. The other was actually going to be convicted of corruption in a pay-for-play, taking tickets to the New York Yankees, if you remember. So, Governor Patterson, who, by the way, is now the de facto head of the Democratic Party in New York State. We could talk about Shelley Silver. We could talk about, on our side of the aisle, Michael Grimm. We could talk about Dan Howard.
Within the past year, the leader of our assembly, Sheldon Silver, and the leader of our state senate, Dean Skelos, one Democrat, one Republican, were both convicted of corruption.
And we've said this before on past shows.
Within the past year.
there is the legend of William Boyland, who was on trial for corruption. It was a mistrial. And in order to pay for his lawyer, who got him through his first corruption trial, he was caught on FBI tape soliciting money to pay off his legal bills in a pay-to-play scandal with the FBI. So he used corruption to pay for his corruption trial.
So,
come on,
Ted Cruz is not wrong.
And we haven't
there is such thing as New York values.
And we haven't even gotten to Hiram Montserrat, who assaulted his girlfriend, or the scheme to try to take the Republican line for the mayor's race by Malcolm Smith.
And we're way ahead of the curve on this, guys. Look on our website, and you'll see we have a clock, a counter. Like, you know when you're at work, and it'll say something like, it's been 187 days since we've had an accident at this job site, a safety slogan. We have a counter for the last time a New York politician was arrested, convicted,
or sentenced. Yeah.
And it doesn't go very high before we have to reset that clock.
I think the highest it ever went was like 100 days, and that's considered a long streak here in the People's Republic of New York.
So Ted Cruz nailed it. Donald Trump, for a guy who claims he's not a politician, used 9/11 like anybody's business.
Cue Lois Griffin.
Jeez, I mean, Rudy Giuliani even was like, ugh.
And Chris Christie was saying, hey, that's my line.
Hey, that's my line.
But Donald was savvy. And while the press and the mainstream media and Mike Lupica, of all people, when did Mike Lupica become the voice of New York politics, are all going after Ted Cruz, there was a straw poll done at the last meeting of the Metropolitan Republican Club in the People's Republic of New York City. Guess what the results were, Russ? 33% Trump, 32% Cruz.
Which is shocking.
It's not so shocking when you think that there are Tea Party people there, but 65% of the vote at that meeting, overwhelmingly in the majority for those two candidates.
That's a New York City-based Republican club.
And that club also took that vote after the New York values comment and the uproar that followed. That, to me, shows that Ted Cruz might have some Kevlar on him when it comes to media attacks, especially with hardcore conservatives.
I think it's worth analyzing. It's shocking that even among New York City Republicans, Trump and Cruz are at the top of the heap.
But not for nothing as well. Think about the brilliant move that Ted Cruz did by this New York values thing. What is the most hated place this side of the Mississippi if you don't live in it?
Oh, New York.
New York.
Especially for Republicans.
So when you are turning against the elite liberal bastion that is the People's Republic of New York City, the rest of the nation's going. The rest of the state, forget about the rest of the nation, the rest of the state is with him.
And again, I like Donald Trump, but I mean, honestly, to feign being offended at those remarks, how many Republicans are elected in the county of New York, which is Manhattan?
That would be zero.
Zero. How many Republicans are elected in the county of Kings, which is Brooklyn?
Are we talking about real Republicans, or are we talking about...
we'll even just go with someone who says that they're Republican.
Okay, how about...
say a real Republican.
Okay, so one.
One. And for those of you guys who are from these small counties that are listening to the show, God bless you. America is run by you guys. But, Gene, let's give them an idea of how big Brooklyn is, Kings County.
Oh, it would be the fourth largest city in the nation if it was its own city.
I forgot how many millions of people live in Brooklyn. I want to say it's 4 million. I will fact check that while we're on the air here. But it's tremendous. We have 20 assembly seats in Brooklyn. We have
20 complete. They have another one we share.
And there's another one that we share. There's several congressional districts that run through here. So when we say there's one elected Republican, we're talking about all levels of government. Our city council, which is 51 seats citywide.
2.59 million in 2013.
2.59 million
that we can count
live in Brooklyn.
I think it's closer to 3 million just because...
Even if we just say 2 million people in Brooklyn, which was a good guess, by the way, off the top of my head. One elected Republican, and that's at all levels of government. And the city council in New York is huge. There's 51 members in the New York City Council. The state senate, the state assembly, those are huge bodies. There's 62
counties in the state of New York.
62 counties.
151 assembly members, and I think 20 of them are from Brooklyn, and 20 of them are Democrat.
Number. One Republican. Queens, same thing. 1 or 2 Republicans elected. The Bronx, 0. Complete blowout.
And then there's Staten Island, which is the exception to the rule. They have,
it's the smallest county, and they have 3. So, Mr. Trump, don't be offended What are the New York values? New York values are democratic values.
Yeah,
even
lighten
the
up,
ones that
Francis.
are Republicans are not really Republicans, and we don't even have that many of them.
Lighten up, Francis. All right? That's all I have to say about that. You know, Russ.
And lighten up everybody else. All these New Yorkers that all of a sudden are offended.
That I'm a real conservative. No, you're not a real conservative.
None of you are real conservatives. Otherwise, you'd like Ted Cruz to begin with. You're offended by what Ted Cruz said? The only real conservative in the race? You're offended by what he said?
You are not please. You're buffoon nominee right there. Every New York conservative that got offended, quote-unquote, conservative. My goodness. They were probably all watching the debate later in the week, Russ, with Hillary and Bernie and the other guy, whatever the hell his name is.
They're probably bleeding out of their eyes.
And by the way, why is nobody watching the Democrat debates?
Well, honestly, they had good numbers. Nothing compared to the Republican debate, but there were 10 million people watching that that so-called debate, which ended early, by the way. Again, another Dem debate ended early.
Well, it got to be the independent thought button was going off a little too much with Bernie on the stage. Can I just say something about Bernie Sanders real quick?
He's a character of himself, is he not?
He is the caricature of the angry old man.
But there's a little more nuance to it. Everyone from Brooklyn knows
Cuba.
Bernie Sanders.
Yes, everybody knows that Bernie Sanders from Brooklyn. Yes.
He is the quintessential old, maniacal Jewish liberal man from Brooklyn.
It's the truth. And we're not typecasting Jews in any way. Russ Gallo's a racist. But he always gets me on that one. I did not. I got him this time. But in all honesty, I think we all know someone who's as angry as Bernie Sanders and makes as little sense. And that's really his strong suit. And listen, Bernie Sanders never grew up. He is the Peter Pan of politics because he never got over spending everybody else's money. I mean, he has $1 trillion plan for health care or something like that. But here's what I took away from the debate very quickly. And I know you got to say something. Hillary Clinton is turning it up. She's ratcheting up the offensive. She's showing emotion. She's getting further out there into the weeds with Bernie Sanders, attacking Bernie Sanders. She's nervous. She's nervous.
Going to be indicted, Gene. Why is no one else agreeing with me on this? I want everyone, all of our listeners, all of our friends to come on the air and say I was right when this happens. It's going to happen. It's impossible that she told whoever was emailing her to remove the classification banners off of classified emails that were being sent to her private email address, and that she did not commit a crime. It's impossible. She committed a crime. If the FBI is doing a criminal investigation, they know this to be fact. She is going to get indicted before the election. Bernie Sanders will likely be the nominee, as insane as this sounds. And if for nothing else but comedic value, I want Donald Trump on that debate stage with Bernie.
Oh, can you imagine that?
That will be the funniest thing I've ever seen in politics.
It would be huge. That would be amazing. All right.
But one last thing, speaking of
course, yes, absolutely.
I don't know if you read this, but Reince Priebus and the RNC have cut ties with NBC.
After that debate, they cut ties with that debacle on MSNBC.
So, as much as we bash the establishment and guys like Reince Priebus,
right on you, man.
Good job. Credit is due, and the RNC on a conference call voted to terminate their relationship with NBC. Good job, guys. And the statement they put out was right on the money. It said something to the effect of, the job of the primary debates is to showcase our candidates and what their platforms are, not to be attacked by the moderators. Yes, sir, that is right. Good job. No more debates, and I would not let Megyn Kelly debate moderate another one either. But that's a side.
Well, who's next on the list besides Megyn Kelly? It'll be CNN or ABC. I mean, we'll see.
Why don't we let talk radio guys do it? Put Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage. Those are the guys I want to see.
CNN put Hugh Hewitt on, so that's not a far-fetched idea.
Yeah, but one of these guys on CNN, the guy Hugh Hewitt has an axe to grind too.
All right, well, listen. Coming to the end of this segment, I just want to say to everybody, thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene, he's Russ, and while we got you listening, be sure to check out www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebook and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any portion of this show as we play it live here on Spreaker, be sure to check out any one of our internet and AM radio outlets, including WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, Red State Talk Radio, High Plains Talk Radio, and Sackheads Media. We're number one every week over there, by the way, Russ. Shout out to them. And K98 Talk. And be sure to also check us out if you miss any of those outlets in our scheduled times there, which you can find in our network listings section. You can listen to us on demand anytime you want on Spreaker, iTunes, Player FM, Podbay, TuneIn,